අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Monday, the 10th of April 2023. Tourist City. President Ranil Wickremesinghe directs officials to develop a formal plan aimed at maximizing the contribution of Nuwara district as a major tourist city.
මේක අලුතෙන් හිතලා අපි වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න.
Unconducive. Local government election cannot be held as planned on the 25th of April under present circumstances.
කොහොමත් දැන් තියෙන තත්ත්වය අනුව අප්‍රේල් 25 වෙනිදාට ඡන්දයක් තියන්න අමාරුයි.
New face. SRPP hints of a new leadership to take the ruling party to victory at elections. Says no decision on nominating incumbent president to lead party at elections. Crucial matter. GL Pires says that he will request the IMF to urge government to ensure the transparency with regard to IMF proposals.
Nothing can be hidden from the public.
Delayed again. Last year's GCE ordinary level examination, which was scheduled to commence on the 15th of May, is postponed once again.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අතිකාරමක්.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Suzanne Shinelli. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening. This is First at Time bringing you the latest updates. Now, up first on tonight's broadcast is President Ranil Wickremesinghe directing officials to develop a formal plan aimed at maximizing the contribution of the Nuwara district to the government's program to establish a stable economy within a 4-year time frame. This was made by the president during a discussion that was held on the development of the Nuwara district, and the head of state also emphasized the importance of developing the Nuwara district as a striking city that can attract tourists throughout the year, targeting both local and foreign tourists.
A discussion on the development of Nuwara district was held at the Nuwara district secretariat this morning under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
අකර 12කට පත් වෙනවා මේ වැවලඟම තීම් පාක් එකකට යෝජනා කරලා අපි මේක ටෙන්ඩර් කෝල් කරලා තිනවා මේක
මෙතෙන්ට එන අය තීම් පාක් බල්ලා එන්නේ නැහැ. අපිත් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවනේ. ඒක වටේ බල්ලා මොකක් හරි කරලා යන්නේ. ඔය අක්කර 12 තියාගන්න මීට වඩා හොඳ එකකට දාන්න. මෙතන කරන්න උවමනා නැහනේ. එන නගරෙට ඕන තරම් වතුර තියනවාද මුළු අවුරුද්ද තුලම? නෑනේ. ඉතින් ඒකට කොහොමද මිනිස්සු එන්නේ වතුර නැත්තම්? මේ ඔක්කොම ටූරිස්ට් ඕන නම් හරියට සුවේජුයි ඩ්‍රේනේජ් සිස්ටම් එක ඉස්සෙල්ලා දාන්න. අනික සෝලා දාන්න මේ පුළුවන් තැන්වල. ඔයව කරන්නේ නැතුව හිතන්න එපා මේක පුළුවන් කියලා අපිට කරන්න. හෝටල් විතරක් නෙමෙයි. ටවුම ගෙවල් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ගෙවල් වලට හොඳ සුවරේජ් එකකුයි මේකකුයි අරන් දෙන්න ඕනේ. නගරේ ජනගහනය කීයද?
දැනට ඔක්කොම 53000ක් විතර පොපියුලේෂන් එකක් ඉන්නවා මෙහෙ අය. සාමාන්‍ය සංචාරකයන් 8 පයින්නවා සීසන් එකේ දිනක.
I think ඒවට සුවරේජ් වතුර නැහැනේ. නුවරඑළිය නගරේ හුඟක් අය කියනවා හරි කැත නගරයක් කියලා. ඉතින් ඔයගොල්ලෝ දාන ප්ලෑන් වලින් තවත් කැත කරන්න දින්නේ. මේ මෙහෙම හෝටල් දානකොට පිස්සුද කවුද මේක හැදුවේ? ඔයගොල්ලෝ ආණ්ඩු ගණනාවක් මේකෙන් රැවට්ටුවනේ. මේ නිලධාරියට ඇවිල්ලා මෙතන කතා කරලා මේවා පෙන්නලා යනවා. ආර්ථික වශයෙන් උත් නැහැ මේක වශයෙන් උත් නැහැ. සමන් අපි කැබිනට් පේපර් දාන්න ඕනේ. තට්ටු 4කට වඩා හදන්න බෑ කියලා. නුවරඑළිය විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයක් දාමු. ඉමීඩියට් ලෙස යුනිවර්සිටි එකට පටන් ගන්න. කමන්නේ අපි කොහෙද ඔයගොල්ලෝ අපි කතා කරගමු. ඕකනේ හොඳ මේක අලුතෙන්. ආර්ථිකය ඉවරයි කියලා හුඟක් අය හිතුවා. ඒත් අද IMF ගිවිසුම පස්සේ ආර්ථිකය ගොඩ ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා දැන් අදහස් තියෙනවා. එකක් තියෙන්නේ ආර්ථිකයේ ස්ථාවරභාවය ඇති කරන්න අවුරුදු 4ක. ඒක කරන්න 2025 වෙනකොට ඒක අවසන් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක මදිනේ. අපිට ඊට පස්සේ අලුතෙන් මුදල් හොයන්න තියෙනවා. ඉදිරියට යන්න තියෙනවා. කොහොමද නුවරඑළිය දිස්ත්‍රික්කයෙන් මේ මුදල් හොයන්නේ? මෙතෙන්ට අපි ආවේ සංචාරක ව්‍යාපාරේ නුවරඑළිය ටවුම ගැන කතා කරන්න. එහෙනම් අපි ඒක දැනගෙන අපි සංචාරකයෝ ගේන්න පුළුවන් විදියට මිනිස්සු පිළිගන්න පුළුවන් විදියට මේව හදන්න ඕනේ. මේක අලුතෙන් හිතලා අපි වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න.
Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government Janaka Wakkumara says that the local government election cannot be held as planned on the 25th of April under the present circumstances. He made these comments addressing the media after attending a meeting between Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and the Election Commission. He said that the Election Commission will take steps to announce a fresh date for elections before the 25th of April. A meeting between members of the Election Commission and Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena was held today at the Prime Minister's office in Colombo. State Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government Janaka Wakkumara was also present at the meeting. According to Prime Minister's Media Division, the local government election and matters associated with holding elections were discussed during the meeting.
A discussion was held with the Election Commission on future activities. There are issues with regard to the state sector employees contesting the election. We took necessary steps to pay their basic salary from March 9 to April 25th. Discussions were held on how their salaries will be paid after 25th of April. The Election Commission will announce their recommendations. We will exclude them from the electorate they are contesting and pay their salaries. The Election Commission also highlighted that the Attorney General does not appear on behalf of them. The Prime Minister too discussed the matter with them. The Prime Minister said steps will be taken to address issues highlighted by the Election Commission after discussions with the Ministry of Finance. We do not have any disputes with the Election Commission. We also want to create a suitable setting to hold the local government elections. A discussion will be held with the Ministry of Finance. However, it is clear that an election cannot be held under the present circumstances. Postal voting too did not take place. The Election Commission will make a statement before 25th of April.
Independent parliamentarian Professor G.L. Puri says a request will be made to the IMF delegation that will be visiting Sri Lanka in June to urge the government to ensure transparency with regard to the implementation of IMF proposals as per the EFF agreement. The IMF delegation is expected in Sri Lanka by June for the progress review of the $3 billion bailout granted to Sri Lanka.
In the month of June, the first review by the International Monetary Fund is to take place. And for that purpose, a delegation will be visiting us from Washington. It is our intention formally to appear before this delegation and to make some very clear representations about a series of crucial matters relating to the implementation of the agreement with the International Monetary Fund, which received the approval of the Executive Board on the 20th of March. There are many representations that we propose to make. Among them is the need for full transparency on the part of the Sri Lankan government. The government must come clean. It cannot hold anything back. Now, this staff level agreement was arrived at as far back as September last year. Since then, Parliament time and again has made emphatic requests for the substance of the staff level agreement to be disclosed to Parliament and through Parliament to the people of Sri Lanka. There must be full visibility and transparency. Nothing can be hidden from the public. But those entreaties fell upon deaf ears. The government did not respond positively, and the truth relating to these agreements was disclosed only after the final approval by the Executive Board. Even today, we are not certain that the complete truth is known by the people of our country.
Parliamentarian of Sri Lanka, Podujana Peramana Professor Ranjit Bandara says a new leader will emerge in the next few weeks to take the ruling party to victory at elections. Addressing a party media briefing at the SLPP headquarters in Bathramula today, Ranjit Bandara said that no discussions were held to appoint incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe as SLPP's next presidential candidate.
When we face an election in the future, we will be able to present a set of candidates representing the ideologies of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to claim victory. After the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, all of you will get to know that a powerful leader will provide his leadership to the SLPP.
අමාත්‍යවරු කිහිප දෙනෙක් තවත් මතයක් ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා වර්තමාන ජනාධිපතිතුමා තමයි ඊළඟ ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකත්වයට සුදුසු කියලා.
අපේ දිලුම් මම්ගම එතුමා
State Minister Dilum Mamnugama clearly mentioned that it is his personal opinion. What Minister Kanchana Wijesekara expressed was his personal opinion. There is no restriction in expressing one's personal opinion. Our thinking patterns as a party is different to our personal thinking patterns.
තනි තනියෙන් හිතන විදිහයි වෙනස්.
The 2022 GCE Ordinary Level Examination, which was scheduled to commence on the 15th of May, have been postponed. According to the Department of Examinations, ordinary levels have been postponed to commence on the 29th of May. The examinations will continue until the 8th of June. The Examinations Department said that it was compelled to delay the O-level examinations once again due to several reasons, including the delay in marking advanced level answer sheets after school teachers withdrew from paper marking, claiming the allowance was insufficient. Earlier too, the 2022 GCE O-level examination was postponed due to nationwide protests by teachers against government's tax policy. We're going into a short commercial break. We'll be back soon with more news.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ඩීමෝ වෙතින්. වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි. ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ඩීමෝ වෙතින්. ලාභ ඉපයීම් සහ කොටස්කරුවන් සඳහා ප්‍රතිලාභ වසරින් වසර ඉහළට. 2022දී රුපියල් බිලියන 23.6ක බදු පෙරලාභයක්. ශ්‍රී ලංකා ඉන්ෂුරන්ස්.
Welcome back. An Indian media report claims China has proposed the setting up of a radar base in Sri Lanka, aiming to counter India's naval presence and strategic oversight in the Indian Ocean region. According to the Economic Times, Aerospace Information Research of the Chinese Academy of Sciences is the likely agency which is steering this project in the forests of Don Bay in Sri Lanka.
Indian newspaper The Economic Times reported that China had proposed the setting up of a radar base in Sri Lanka, aiming to counter India's naval presence and strategic oversight in the Indian Ocean region. The article claims that the proposed radar base will focus on monitoring activities of the Indian Navy while also evaluating New Delhi's strategic assets in the region. It is claimed that Aerospace Information Research of the Chinese Academy of Sciences is likely agency which is steering this project in the forests of Don Bay in Sri Lanka. The report, while quoting people familiar with developments related to the Chinese proposal, says if Beijing successfully manages to establish the radar base in Sri Lanka, it would be detrimental to Indian military installations as they will be in the range of the proposed radar. Economic Times noted that the proposed Chinese oversight installation in Sri Lanka is likely to have the range as far as the Andaman and Nicobar Islands to its east. This development comes 8 months after the dock of controversial Chinese surveillance vessel Yuan Wang 5 at the Hambantota port, which came under the heavy criticism and objection of the Indian government.
A shipment of 3,820 tons of urea fertilizer was handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture today by the European Union and Food and Agriculture Organization. Procured by the United Nations FAO through funding from the European Union, the fertilizer consignment is intended for distribution among smallholder paddy farmers and paddy seed farmers across Sri Lanka. The urea fertilizer shipment is to be dispatched to over 72,200 smallholder paddy farmers who were severely impacted by the recent economic crisis in the districts of Polonnaruwa, Badulla, Ampara, Matale, Puttalam, Kurunegala and Hambantota. European Union Ambassador Denis Chaibi said that the EU hopes that the new support can help prevent immediate food shortages but also contribute towards a transition to a more sustainable and resilient agriculture sector in Sri Lanka. Through this program, every eligible farmer cultivating up to 0.5 hectares of land in the targeted districts will receive 50 kilograms of urea fertilizer for the upcoming cultivating season. Additionally, the program will also provide high-quality paddy seeds and the necessary technology capacity building to boost the efficient use of fertilizer. Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira said that the EU FAO initiative goes beyond providing material inputs and addresses the country's long-term need to ensure sustainability of the local agriculture sector. FAO representative in Sri Lanka, Wimlendra Sharan, said that the consignment of essential urea fertilizer is the first component of a multifaceted FAO support to boost Sri Lanka's paddy production and revitalize the local agriculture sector. Sri Lankan shares closed higher on Monday, supported by gains in industrial sector stocks. The all-share price index rose 0.71% to 9,322.85, while the S&P SL20 ended at 2,728.01, following a 1.57 gain. Lanka Holdings plc and Ceylon Tobacco Company plc were the top gainers on the index, rising 12.5% and 2.5% respectively. The trading volume for the ASPI rose to 75.3 million shares from about 51 million to the previous session. The market turnover rose to 1.3 billion Sri Lankan rupees or $4.09 million from 811.9 million rupees in the last session. Foreign investors were net buyers in the equity market, purchasing stocks worth 52.2 million rupees of shares, while domestic investors were offloaded stocks worth of 1.29 billion rupees on the net basis. Now let's take a look at today's rupee exchange rates. Global oil prices steadied today after rising for 3 straight weeks as looming supply cuts from Saudi Arabia and other OPEC Plus producers balance concern about weakening global growth that may hinder fuel demand. Last week, crude prices jumped by more than 6% after the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and allies, including Russia, surprised the market with a new round of production cuts of 1.16 million barrels per day starting May for the rest of the year.
As per today's crude oil prices, Brent crude slipped by 3 cents to $85.09 a barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate crude gained 8 cents to settle at $80.78 a barrel. Oil prices also drew support from a steeper than expected drop in US crude inventories last week, as well as a decline in gasoline and distillate stocks, hinting at rising demand. Monthly reports updating oil demand and supply forecasts from the OPEC and the International Energy Agency are expected on Friday. Although large oil producers led by Saudi Arabia of the OPEC Plus group announced output cuts from May this year, state oil giant Saudi Aramco said it will supply full crude contract volumes loading in May to several North Asian buyers, despite a pledge to cut 5 million barrels a day. Asia's oil demand was expected to weaken in the second quarter as several refiners in Asia are shutting a combined 1.15 million barrel per day of crude distillation capacity in May. Still, some investors are bullish about a recovery in China's oil demand and expect global oil markets to tighten in the second half this year and push prices towards $100 a barrel.
U.S. stock futures stayed mostly around the flat line today as traders returned following the Easter holiday to a slate of key economic data that could factor into the path ahead for Federal Reserve monetary policy. However, Asian shares inched higher today, while the dollar started the week on the front foot after U.S. jobs data underscored a tight labor market, firming up expectations that the Federal Reserve will again raise interest rates at its meeting next month. Stock markets fell today as fears of a recession grew on Wall Street and investors looked ahead for key inflation data this week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average traded 112 points lower or 0.3%. The S&P 500 sit 0.7%. The Nasdaq Composite lagged, falling 1%. Markets are coming off a choppy week as investors digested signs of a weakening labor market. Meanwhile, Asia-Pacific markets were mostly higher today as some investors returned from a long Easter weekend. South Korea's Kospi gained 0.87% and led gains amongst benchmark indexes in the region. The Kosdaq index also advanced by 0.88%, where Japan's Nikkei 225 closed 0.42% higher. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite was down 0.37%, while the Shenzhen component fell by 0.8%. Australian and Hong Kong markets remain closed due to a 4-day Easter holiday. Welcome back. provincial snap elections are not in the national interest of Pakistan given its economic turmoil and security situation, the country's finance minister Ishaq Dar said today. His comments defy an order from Pakistan's Supreme Court last week that mandated the elections, and they raise the risk of a constitutional crisis to add to the country's political and economic upheaval. The court had set Monday as the deadline for the government to issue 21 billion Pakistani rupees to Election Commission of Pakistan. Finance Minister Ishaq Dar put forward a new financial bill to seek a vote on whether to approve funding for the election. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan dissolved his local governments into 2 provinces earlier this year to try to force the government to hold snap general elections across the country that are not due until October. And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9. We'll be back again next week, tomorrow at the same time. Coming up next is Sanavi Mudanayaka with World News. Stay safe and have a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.